Good morning, peasant. How goes your day? My lord, you're cultivating your food incorrectly. We keep running miles and miles to every single field for very little yield. Well, how about you don't? No way, my lord. You haven't told us not to. What do you mean I haven't told you? I've not been commanded to stick to these fields, so I'm going to do what I'm told. It's my nature as a medieval peasant and a scripted AI to only follow exactly what you've told me to do so. Well, that's a weirdly specific take on history and a fourth wall break. Right, I'm telling you now, just make it more efficient. I'm sorry, my liege. I can't do that until later in the video. What do you mean later in the video? We're going to talk about how I've got 50 months supply of berries first. You've what? Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Midgeman, and if you're anything like me, you're in love with Manor Lords, but food! Now that has you confused. Well, I've been grinding out even more research to bring you yet another guide, and this time we are eating well. As a reminder, this video was produced on Early Access build 0.7.955, and be sure to make it to the end of the video to find out how you can get your hands on a copy of Manor Lords. Okay, let's dig into this buffet of a video. Berries. Bursting with flavor, berries in the current build are the first resource you should attempt to acquire in a standard Manor Lords build, and I absolutely slept on how powerful they are in the current build. Currently, in Manor Lords, berries will grow constantly throughout spring, regenerating faster than you'd ever believe. I spent some time micromanaging the harvesting, moving my foragers to different huts each time the internal storage filled up, and I managed to accumulate enough berries to last 50 months in the first year. This was only improved by rich yields and the development perks that allow for double the amount of berries to grow. The cycling method is micro-intensive but will guarantee high yields each season. That being said, you can still generate a huge harvest without micromanagement. If you want to leave it to do its thing, I recommend building 2 to 4 foragers' huts and assigning between 4 and 8 families, roughly 2 to 3 per building. You should treat these families as seasonal workers and pull them off to other jobs once spring has ended and the berries have been depleted for the year. Also be aware that collecting herbs seems to lower their berry output. Bread making and farming revised. Okay, so in my industrial guide, I missed something massive. Yes, call me an idiot, but I was organizing my fields based on the fact that you couldn't limit work regions when you absolutely can. However, it's a little clunky, mainly because you only have a circle to assign regions, and also sometimes it's a little buggy and they'll straight up ignore it. That being said, you can increase that region size by holding Alt. Anyway, my revised tips for farming are to keep fields between 1 and 2 morgens in size and group them in groups of 3 fields per active farmhouse, 1 for each year of crop rotation. You can then add the oxen upgrade to reduced work requirements. Oxen work far better with the fact that you can assign farmhouses to certain fields. Furthermore, I recommend placing the farmhouses on low threshing priority to ensure your farmhands pick up all of the crops from the fields before weather destroys them whilst they sit on the ground. If you're planning on going into bread making, I also highly recommend that you fully specialize this settlement for farming and picking up all of the farming upgrades bar irrigation, mainly due to the fact sheep breeding is potent and will save you so much money, and the fertility gains are out of this world. I currently provide 1 windmill for every 3 farms, and I built a granary close by that can only hold grain and flour, and a communal oven. I was skeptical at first about the use case for upgrading burgages into bakeries, but honestly, do not sleep on this upgrade. Bakeries are far more efficient than the communal ovens for the simple fact their pantry storage is between 150 and 225 at a tier 3 building, rather than the measly 50 of the communal ovens, which means they produce far more bread because they can store far more bread, which does not halt their production. Meat and hunting. Hunting is an excellent way to keep a massive stock of food early on, especially if you have a rich yield in the settlement. I recommend setting up 2 hunters' camps and only assigning 2 families to them, 1 to each. The main issue with the production chain for meat is not the gathering, but in the fact that the site pantry is so limiting. So splitting it into 1 camp per family working the site will maximize your efficiency. Adding the hunting grounds policy and grabbing yourself the hunting upgrades from forestry will allow you to generate months of meat. The hard limitations of the production chain is similar to berries in the fact that there is only 1 site per region and their yields are hard capped without the use of development points. Vegetables and apples. Right, here comes the portion of the guide where I try not to make too many jokes. In my initial guide, I mentioned that size matters for burgage plots, and when it comes to veggies and poms, the bigger the better. In terms of yield, that is still completely the case. However, apparently, sometimes your burgage can be too efficient. This is down to the same issues surrounding most of the production chains, and most closely, the issues surrounding the communal ovens. Logistics and pantry size. Burgages have a pantry that scales with the level of the burgage plot itself. 25 at level 1 or 37 if it's a double plot, 50 at level 2 or 75 as a double plot, and a whopping 150 at level 3 or an even whoppinger 225 if it's a double plot. Therefore, in the early game, you can quite easily have a burgage produce way more produce than it's able to physically store. To offset this, either prioritize upgrading the plots or utilizing double plots for this type of produce, or by building a granary at the end of the street that is dedicated to distributing and collecting only this set type of produce. Either way, 20 burgages with vegetables should be able to sustain you for most of the game. Eggs. Eggs require very little to set up and are the complete opposite of vegetables and apples. First of all, don't waste land on huge plots as it does not affect egg production. Eggs spawn at the rate of 1 egg per family per month, doubled obviously with the double family plot, and then quadrupled if you upgrade said plot to level 3, as that would be 4 families inside the building. Which means if you've set up your logistics correctly and you're using eggs to supplement other food production, you'll start stacking them up in no time. Honey. Locked behind development points, honey is currently one of the worst food sources in the game. You are limited to building 2 apiaries in a region, and after some testing, it seems that increasing the workforce does not increase the yield, as it works similarly to eggs, where each apiary will only produce 1 honey a month. Basically, right now, it's not worth your development points. My hope is that in later early access builds, the yield of honey is tied to the surrounding growth of the flora, making it a bespoke item you build near fields, orchards, or berry plots to increase its yield off of the surrounding development, or lack thereof, urbanization. A little about markets and granaries. So it's that time again in my video where I'm going to rattle on about logistics. So I've been testing granary placement a lot, both utilizing the method I suggested in my industrial video, where you place the granary on the pathing between the resource and the market, as well as the heavily suggested building a market around the granary itself. Now, I've not really seen any conclusive difference made by these 2 options. The real difference maker I've noticed recently is making sure you have dedicated granaries for different production chains or nearby producers to limit collection and harvest time, but most importantly, keeping on top of who's actually manning market stalls. I very quickly noticed a number of empty food stalls in my markets despite having a massive surplus of food. And by all calculations, each burgage, not family, seemed to require 1 food source per month, so I had months of food. So what's my problem? Well, it seems the type of stall a family creates is dictated by the storage or pantry they have access to, via whichever industry they work for. So empty stalls are often down to farmers. Farmers, and to an extent millers, have access to grains, wheat, rye, and flour, which are all resources that can be stored in the granary. This then tells the family that they have access to food, which can be sold on the market. However, they can't, as you can't sell those items on the marketplace, meaning they open food stores with absolutely no access to food. Easiest way around this is to check if granary workers are available to take over the stall and simply cycle the farmer out of the job so the stall becomes vacant and then reassign them after a day or two. I find that deleting the empty stall will also speed up the reassignment, but only after removing the farmer from their job, or a family member will run over and instantaneously rebuild it. So keep an eye on your markets and micromanage them when you can. It'll help you out to no end. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching and for your continued support of my coverage of the fantastic Manor Lords. To celebrate my first video hitting 100k views and now 150k views, I'm at the time of uploading giving away 5 copies of the game. Currently 3 out of the 5 copies are up for grabs in the comment section of my previous 2 videos, and if this video reaches 50k or if we hit 15k subs by the end of May, that'll unlock all 5 and you could be in with a chance of winning one of those copies. We'll be drawing the prizes at the end of the month, so go ahead and enter while you can. It's completely free to do so and just my way of saying thank you so much. Finally, thank you so much for trusting me with your attention span. If you want to help the content rule over another person's brain cell for a little while, leave a like and comment down below. Believe me, even commenting a simple emoji breaks the algorithm.
Good in the comments.
So I've been Midgeman, and I will see you in the next video.
Wow, wasn't that fantastic? You've just had the utmost imponderable joy of watching a Midgeman video. Thank you to my editors Foxy and Dax for being absolutely wonderful cherubs and helping make all of this content. And thank you to the channel members. You know who you are, you wonderfully sexy toast people you are. Why not check out this video? It's been picked for you by the YouTube algorithm. Goodbye!